Hey boys and girls, it's me, Mrs. Mosier, and I'm presenting to you a study guide for your very first test on Google Classroom. Okay, so here we are. Number one says, what is the volume of a cube with 1/4 inch sides? So remember, if you have a fraction calculator, it'd be very beneficial for you to use that. Or if you have a scientific calculator, feel free to use that with the fraction function. Okay, so if it has 1/4 inch sides, that means that the length is 1/4, the width is 1/4, and the height is 1/4 because it's a cube. So I'm simply going to type in 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. Remember, volume equals length times width times height, and that is your volume, okay? Once I press equal, I get 1/64, okay? So for our very first one, it'll be 1/64 inches cubed. That's with a baby 3, or you can put cubic units. Whoops. Okay, so that's how we do number one. Remember, if it says a cube, that means all 3 sides are the same. So the length, the width, and the height are all 1/4 inches. And all I have to do is just multiply those 3 out by using the calculator. Okay, so let's take a look at number 2. It says, what is the volume of a box that will hold exactly 420 of these cubes with 1/4 inch sides? So what I'm going to do is, say for instance, I have 420, and I'm going to multiply it by 1/4 inch sides. And this example goes with number 1, okay? So in my calculator, I'm going to do 420 times 1/4, okay? And I get 105. So the volume for this particular one will be 105 inches cubed. Okay, so what that means is if the box can hold 420 cubes, then the actual volume with those cubes on the inside is 105 inches cubed. Okay, now let's take a look at number 3. It says, what is the volume of a cube with 1/3 inch sides? So remember, if we have a cube, the length, the width, and the height are all equal to 1/3 inch, okay? So what it's going to look like is volume equals length times width times height. Just for a reminder, that's 1/3 times 1/3 times 1/3. Remember, with volume, you are multiplying, okay? If you do not have a scientific calculator, feel free to use that online fraction calculator that I posted in my Google Classroom, okay? Or you can use mental math or work it out yourself, okay? So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 3 is 9, and 9 times 3 is 27. So we get 127, and that's what I have here. So it's 127 inches cubed, and that's with the baby 3. Okay, just another example. So I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see each one. Okay, get very familiar with these questions because I have chosen very similar questions to what you'll see on your test, and all I did was just change the numbers. Okay, so make sure you use this for a study guide. Take a very good look at it, write these down, pause it so that you can have time to write down all 3 and work them out. Okay, so now I'm going to move on and we're going to look at number 4. Okay, what do you notice about number 4? That's right, it's a cube, and if it's a cube, that means that is correct. The length, the width, and the height are all the same whenever you're talking about a cube. So if we have to find the volume for this one, we would just do length times width times height. But wait a minute, let's read the question. It says, if the box holds 48 cubes, what is the total volume of the box? So now we don't want to just know the volume of this box. I want to know what the volume would be with the cubes on the inside of it. So it's a whole different weight or a different amount of space there. So remember, I'm simply going to take the cubes, or the number of cubes that we have in the box is 48 times. And what's the dimension of this cube? Is 1/3. Whoops. So 48 times 1/3. Okay. And we can simply do that in the calculator. 48 times 1/3. And we get 16. Okay. So 16 would then be the volume. Okay. Or we'll just do inches cubed. Okay. So 16 inches cubed equals the volume. All right, let's look back at number... Let's look back at number 2. Okay, number 2 says, what is the volume of a box that will hold exactly 420 of these cubes with a 1/4 inch sides? So remember, if they give you the number of cubes, all you have to do is the number of cubes times the dimension that they give you. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense to you. So you take the number of cubes times the dimension and you get your answer. So number 2 and number 4 are just alike. Okay, so let's look at number 4 again. So they gave me the number of cubes is 48. And then my dimensions of this box, since they drew a picture, I can just take one of them. So it's 48 times 1/3, and we get the answer here. Okay, that makes sense? Good. All right, let's take a look at number 5. It says the volume of a box with a width of 2.5 inches, a length of 3.5 inches, and a height of 5 inches. Well, we know that volume is length times width times height. So that means all I'm going to do is multiply the length of 3.5 inches times the width of 2.5 inches times the height of 5 inches. Okay. It's very good if you have that scientific calculator that you can use, or you can use that online fraction calculator that I posted on my Google Classroom page. Okay. So here we go with 3.5 times, that's the length, times the width of 2.5 times the height of 5, okay? And I get 43 3/4, okay? So that's the volume. So here, let me write this out for you guys. That's 3.5 times 2.5 times 5. And my volume here is 43 3/4, okay? 43 3/4. All I did was 3.5 times 2.5 times 5. 3.5 times 2.5 times 5. 43 3/4. Okay, let's move on to number 6. Okay. Number 6 wants to know the volume of this box. I'm going to put the answer here. The volume for a rectangular prism, the length is 2 1/3 inch, the width is 3 inches, and the height is 1 2/5 inches. Okay, remember volume is length times width times height. Okay, and I got 2 1/3 times 3 times 1 2/5. Y'all go ahead and calculate it while I calculate it too, and let's see if we come up with the same thing. All right, I want to show you my answer. What'd you guys get? That's right. I got 9 4/5. Okay, 9 4/5, and we'll say inches cubed. 9 4/5 inches cubed. Okay, all you're doing is length times width times height. Pretty easy, huh? So here I'll put my answer here, 9 4/5 inches cubed. Okay, looking at number 7, we want to know the volume. The length is 3/2, the width is 5/2, and the height is 7/2. So once again, that scientific calculator will help you. So 3.5 times 5.5 times 7.5. Okay, and for my answer, I get 13 1/8. Okay, length times width times height, 13 1/8. Okay, all right, now for number 8, move the notebook over here. All right, so with number 8, they give you the volume. They give you the height, they give you the width, and you have to find the length, okay? So I gave you guys some directions on how to find the missing dimension, and all you have to do, and get my cameraman to stay focused on that problem. All you have to do is multiply the 2 dimensions that you do have and take the volume, take the volume and divide, okay? So what I do have is the height. So I'm going to do 4 times 3.5. Calculator, 4 times 3.5. And that gives me 14, right? So now, since I multiplied the height times the width, and I'm just going to spell that out for people so y'all know what we just did, okay? All right, so that's the height times the width. That's what you do have, all right? Try to keep that angle. All right, so now I'm going to take the volume of 98 and divide it by the product. Do y'all remember what the product is? The product is the answer that you get when you multiply numbers, remember? So now I'm gonna take my volume of 98 divided by the product of the height times the width. So 98 divided by 14, and we get 7. So the length here is 7 inches, okay? That's all you have to do. Multiply what you see, and then divide the volume by what you get, okay? Multiply what you see, okay? And divide the volume by what you get, okay? So this is the volume divided by the product, okay? Volume divided by the product, all right? So now let's take a look at number 9, and this is the last example, okay? All right, so here we got the volume of 60 inches cubed. We know the height to be 5 inches. We know the width to be 6 inches. And once again, we do not know the length. So what we're going to do is multiply what we have. That's 5 times 6. You got it, is what? 30. Okay, so that's what I get. So that's height times the width, and that gives us 30. All right, so what's the next thing we're supposed to do? And you can look at number 8 for a hint. That's right. You do the volume divided by the product, okay? And remember, make sure you put the volume first. That's the bigger number, okay? So you're going to do 60 divided by 30. Get your calculator handy if you don't know that. And we get 2. Okay, so the length here is 2 inches, all right? So let's try it out. Let's work backwards. So say, for instance, I'm going to do 5 times 6 times 2, and I get 60, all right? I don't know if y'all caught that on the camera, but 5 times 6 times 2, that gives me 60, and that's the volume, okay? You see how it works? Likewise, if I come up here to number 8, and I do 4 times 3.5 times 7, I get 98, okay? And that's what we got here for the length, all right? So that's how you can work backwards. I'm gonna raise this up so that you guys can see it. Take any pauses that you need to. On number 6, all you have to do is just calculate the volume by doing length times width times height on number 6. Number 7, same thing, length times width times height. Number 8, you have to do 2 steps there. You have to multiply what you had, get the product, and then do the volume divided by the product. On number 9, we're missing the length. So we had to multiply what we had. That's height times width. That's 30. And then 60 divided by 30, and that gave us 2. So the length there is 2. Okay? So take a long look at this. You guys need to write this down. You learn better when you write things down. Okay? And I'm just going to look back at number 1 here. All right. Remember, number 1, it says, what's the volume of a cube? A cube has 3 sides, and they're all the same. So that's 1/4. I just want to write this down for you. 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. Okay. Number 2, what's the volume of a box that will hold exactly 420 of these cubes? If they give you the number of cubes, all you have to do is 420 times that dimension, which was 1/4. That's all you have to do, guys. If they start telling you about what's the volume, if it holds a certain number of cubes, so all you gotta do is just multiply. On number 3, what's the volume of a cube with 1/3 size? Cube, length, width times height. Boom, boom, bam. Here's your answer. Okay. Flip it over. Number 4, they're telling you about the cubes again. You just take the cubes times one of the dimensions. Bam. Okay. Multiply all 3. Length times width times height. Fancy calculator. Boom, you get it. Okay. Number 6, same thing. Multiply all 3. 9 4/5. 7, multiply all 3. Boom, bam. 8 and 9, multiply what you got, and then do the volume divided by what you got, or the product, okay? So I hope this guys helps you. You'll see your test, rather. It's a test grade, okay? You'll see that on Wednesday, so you'll have Wednesday and Thursday to take the test. You need to pass it. 60% or higher is passing. If you fail it, I will allow you to do a retake, but you must have that done, I believe I said by Friday at 6 p.m. All right, guys. This is Mrs. Mosier signing out. I wish you guys the best of luck. Make sure you're checking your Google Classroom every day and doing all your work. All right, bye.